人们现在我们是年纪是有换水了嘛，可是啊。
The legend says that at the beginning of time, water burst from the rocks.
那么就遮住一个人，遮不住。
The flood covered the fields, sweeping aside cottages and drowning the people. Until only one woman was left. She'd been busy feeding her pigs. She hadn't noticed the rising waters. She jumped into the pig's wooden feeding trough and was carried away by the flood. All alone on the waters, with only her ladle as a paddle, the woman looked up to heaven and begged the gods to give her a companion. A kindly spirit took pity on her and granted her wish, in the form of a piece of driftwood, shaped like a man. The driftwood came to life. The woman had a lover. And that's how Lake Lugu was born. And the Moso people too.
I don't live with my children. Moso fathers and children don't live together. Mosos don't marry. We have free love.
It's always been that way and it hasn't changed. If two people love each other, they don't change partners. Otherwise they can have several. It's up to them. We don't have marriage certificates or divorce papers. We never swear to be faithful. That could never happen.
The Moso are different. There are no husbands, no fathers. In southeast China, 7,000 feet up in the foothills of the Himalayas, Lake Lugu is squeezed between two provinces, Sichuan to the north and Yunnan to the south. The Moso have lived on the shores of this lake for nearly 2,000 years. The 30,000 Moso who live in the little towns and villages bordering the lake worship Lion Mountain, home of the goddess Komu. The log cabins of the village of Liku are home to 20 Moso families. Urchejima lives in this small farmhouse. Her children and grandchildren live with her.
I'm in charge here. I feed the animals. I look after my grandchildren. My children give me the money they earn. And I give them some back when they need it.
Urchejima is the matriarch. Bit by bit, she's handing over to her eldest daughter Jema, who will eventually take over from her.
Mosos prefer to have daughters. The eldest daughter will become the head of the family.
Urchejima's son Sunapitsu is the man of the family. His nephews and nieces respect him in his role as uncle.
The uncle looks after repairs to the house and organizes family events like funerals. He's consulted over important family decisions. But it's the mother who runs the household, not me. And if my mother dies, my older sister will take over the household.
Little by little, Jema is taking over from her mother. Sonapitsu shares the household chores with her. Moso brothers and sisters live together all their lives. the mother's children are seen as brothers and sisters, whoever their father may be. Together they keep family life harmonious. Arguments and disputes are almost unknown. Moso family life excludes everyone who is not a direct descendant. Men and women live in their mother's house and will stay there all their lives. To make love, the men discreetly visit their partner at night. They can never bring their lover home. After a few affairs, Sonapitsu met a young woman who lives at the other end of the village. There are 2 daughters. But though he often spends his nights with their mother, Sonapitsu doesn't live with his daughters. He's closer to his nephews than to his 2 daughters. It isn't important to Mosos to live with their father. Neither the children themselves, nor the uncles who bring up their sisters' children, feel anything missing in their lives. This way of life gives the women unlimited freedom. They can take any lover they wish, whether or not they want a child with him. Jema chose a man from the village and has had a son with him. At 34, she's still living with her mother, like her brother Sonapitsu. The Moso live and love freely, without ever worrying about forming a 2-parent family to look after the children. There are rules to cover almost every eventuality in Moso life, however rare. "12-year-old Lamu lives with one of Jema's relatives. When Lamu was 9, her mother died. She and her sister were too young to share household duties with their grandmother. So their father was called in to lend a hand. He left his own village and moved here. He helps with the harvest and supplements the family's income through fishing.
The mother of my children died. As my daughters live here, I had to move in with them. The fishing's not very good in winter. There are too many fishermen, too many nets.
But by coming to the village, Lami's father didn't solve all the family's problems. help out, Seiya, another of his daughters by another woman in a different village, has joined them. She's 19. She's moved into her own room where she keeps her most precious possession, her traditional costume. And this is where she receives her lovers. Once a woman's past 50, and it becomes a little more difficult to attract new lovers, she may settle down with her man, as Lamo's grandmother has. This may be rare, but it's covered by the rules. Everything is organized so that life wins out, so that everyone can thrive. Lama is happy again, and a new and unlikely family of special cases has come together. For young people, a different kind of cohabitation is possible when the line is endangered. Erchejima has no granddaughter, so she has allowed her second daughter, Latso, to live with her lover, as long as they move in next door. Latso and Tso, a young man from the neighboring village, have had 2 sons in a steady relationship. The family have helped them build a house attached to Erchejima's, and now they hope to have a daughter.
If I don't have a daughter, when my son grows up and has a girlfriend, she could come and live with me. But if she didn't come, and if my sister Latso had 2 daughters and I had none, one of her daughters would move in with me. Tso comes from a very large family. In that situation, you can leave your mother. There aren't many people in my family, but Tso has 7 brothers and sisters. So, he's been able to come and live in Liko with Latso. But since we already have brothers in my family, my sister's lover could never come and live with me. So we can eat at Latso's house or at my house, whichever we want. But Latso has split away from the family, and now we have separate finances.
By moving into a new house, Latso has created a new family and become its head. This could leave Tso in an awkward position. If Latse separates from him, he will have to leave. He'll lose everything, including his financial stake in the house. So he makes sure she can't do without him. He's even learned to cook to satisfy his partner's every need. Even if his role is something like an uncle's, Tso will always be an outsider in this house. He's not part of the bloodline. Tso does not have much authority over his own children. They're more likely to obey their uncle than their father. Tso takes on all these difficulties in good humor. The important thing for him is to be with his lover. Moso law is flexible and adapts to special cases. Thus, it maintains the spirit of freedom that this people have known for thousands of years. In the beginning, women, men, and animals were immortal. One day, the god Abba-Odgu decided to give each an age. He warned the living creatures and advised them to be ready. That very night, at midnight, he promised a lifespan of 1,000 years to any creature that was listening. Only the goose responded to his call. Then Abba-Odgu set a limit of 100 years. The duck heard him, and so the duck would live to 100 years. The dog was given a lifespan of 61 years. But man, who slept on to the morning, was given just 13 years. And that was too little. He started to complain and asked the god if he could swap with the dog. Abba-Odgu granted his wish, but on condition that the dog would always be well fed, never kicked or hit with a broom, nor doused in boiling water. This legend from the dawn of time plays an important part in the festivities for the Lunar New Year. Overnight, a snowstorm has covered Liku with a thick blanket of snow, as if the gods themselves had found a way to announce the new year. There's much more snow than usual this year. It isolates Liku that little bit more. The children love it. The grown-ups could do without it as they prepare for the feast. The celebrations, to mark the arrival of spring, are linked to many traditional rites and customs unique to the Moso. One of the most important jobs is making alcohol to lubricate the festivities. After fermenting maize, buckwheat and barley in a jar, Jema brings the mixture to the boil in a barrel.
It's a kind of maize beer.
This light beer, made especially for the New Year's festival, is brewed by an ingenious system that has barely changed in centuries. The entire mechanism is made of pieces of wood bound together with strips of cloth to make it watertight. Jema is waiting for one of her brothers to come back from the town where he went to get married in the Chinese style. He's one of the few Moso who abandoned their village for the charms of city life. Jema herself, like most Moso, would never dream of leaving. Everyone wants to look their best for the big day. At the village shop, the prices reflect the distance the goods have travelled. But the shopkeeper is guaranteed good business. The next nearest shop is 12 kilometers away, and people here don't travel unless they have to. Archejima has decided today is the day to kill the pig she's so carefully fattened. Pork is one of the main ingredients of the New Year's feast. Archejima is delighted that so many of her family are coming. Even her Chinese daughter-in-law will be welcome, as long as she only stays for a few days. Archejima rules over her family and would never allow a stranger to undermine her position. The men must slaughter and cut up the pig. Since there are no husbands, the sons and uncles must do the job. It all helps to strengthen the mother's role as head of the family. At Lamu's house, the sacrificed pig isn't so fat. But the tradition is the same for rich and poor. There has to be a feast for the new year. Pigs may no longer be the medium of exchange for tea, salt, corn and fabric, but the number of pigs still symbolizes the wealth of a home. In the bustle of preparation for the feast, all of Likö seems one big family. Jema has come to help her neighbor prepare sweets. Each house has its own speciality, which will be eaten all over the village. Here, it's popcorn. Jema's youngest brother, Erce, looks after one of the village's few motor vehicles. He's using the family's tractor to help a neighbor sell her grain. Erce is looking his best. It's a chance for him to spend the night with a girl from the town. Everyone loves going to the forest to cut down pines for the new year. It's a task for the elder brothers. Sir drives the tractor. Sonapitsu follows with the children. Each house needs 2 pines. Sonapitsu and Sir choose 2 of the same size. The pines are planted on either side of the courtyard. They symbolize the future generations that each family desires. Sonapitsu makes an offering of seeds at the foot of each tree. Jema's son Pati is beginning to learn the traditional rituals from his uncle. Alchejima and her brother, who has come for the celebrations, are carrying out rituals passed down through the generations.
We're praying to Kamu, the mountain goddess.
We must pray to the goddess for a successful start to the new year.
The wind carries their prayers to the sacred mountain. To let in the spring, the dust of winter has to be dismissed. The house must be welcoming both inside and out. Even the street is swept. When everything is clean, welcome banners are attached to the doors of the houses. Getting them in the right order is not easy for Tse and Erche, whose Chinese is not good. They learnt it at school, but the Mosos have their own language, which has no written form. Before every meal, and especially on feast days like today, Sonapitsu helps Alchejima make an offering of food to the family's ancestors. This ritual is vitally important to the Moso. The souls of their ancestors wandering on the sacred mountain would die without these offerings. Another reason to maintain the family lines, or there will be no one to look after the ancestors. Compared to their usual meager fare of rice, vegetables and bacon, this is a feast fit for a king. Jema's maize beer flows generously, and tradition is respected. Sunrise on New Year's Day is a symbolic moment in the life of a young Moso, the start of the puberty ritual. This ritual commemorates the ancient times when Abba Odgu gave age to humans. For Lamu, like every Moso child who will be 13 this year, the ceremony starts in the family home at dawn. This is the day the child becomes an adult with an adult's privileges. He will finally receive a soul. For the Moso, a child has no soul. Standing in for Lamu's mother, Jema dresses her in the traditional costume which she now has the right to wear. Under her grandmother's watchful eye, Lamu patiently lets them dress her. Her feet rest on a dried pig's carcass and a sack of rice, symbols of opulence in the new life which is about to commence. A lama prays to the household gods and to the ancestors. Lamu prostrates herself 3 times, to the gods, to the altar of her ancestors, and finally to her grandmother. For the first time, Lamo feels the solemnity of the moment of transition into adulthood. In the evening, the whole village is invited to meet the new Lamo. For the first time, she can join in the singing and dancing with the grown-ups. In the adult world, Lame will have the privilege of organizing her own love life. But even though she's now considered a woman, she'll wait for physical maturity before getting her own bedroom, in which she will have her first sexual experiences. The Moso make no promises of fidelity. Everyone is free to keep a lover for as long or as briefly as he or she wishes, as long as they respect the rules and the taboos.
Brothers and sisters mustn't talk about their love lives, and especially never joke about it. A man must be discreet in front of his mother. Members of the same family must never talk about sex.
This enforced distance between members of the same family comes from a taboo against incest. Once, the penalty for lovers caught in incest was death. Even though Mosos can't always be sure of their own parenthood, incest and inbreeding are rare. A constant stream of Mosos, Chinese, Tibetans and other minorities like the Yi or the Pumi pass through Liko village. Moso women have plenty of opportunities for amorous encounters.
A girl may fall in love with an outsider. Her mother won't say anything and she can't do anything about it. It's her daughter's choice.
The god Abba Odgu designed a test to regulate lovers' meetings. A man was locked up in a house, and he asked a woman to join him. By dawn, the woman had broken through 7 of the 9 doors that separated them. The next night it was the man's turn. He only broke through 3 doors before sunrise. Abba Odgu decided that in future the men would come to visit the women. The women were too passionate. Achima is 19. Her bedroom is on its own over the stables. The family must see no trace of her lovers. Complete discretion is essential.
In the old days, people met working in the fields. Now we meet dancing in the evening. I don't want to get married. I want to stay free with the Moso man.
When a couple decide to spend the night together, they obey the traditional rules. The man must not encounter a member of his lover's family on the way to her room. He arrives late, around midnight, and leaves before the cocks crow. Jema asks her mother to look after her son. Now she can receive her lover until daybreak. Jema likes to enjoy life, and like most young women, she would love to fall in love forever. She'd like to have a daughter with that man. Sonopitsu was young when he met the mother of his children. Their steady relationship will last as long as they love each other. The quality of the relationship is all that counts.
Right now I'm happy with my life. My girlfriend lives with her mother, and I live with mine. That's the good thing about love for the Moso. Both sides live with their mother, and they hardly ever argue. My girlfriend isn't very beautiful, but she works hard and she's honest.
This steady relationship is fully accepted. Sonopitsu can visit his girlfriend quite openly.
The ideal woman? If she's cheerful and understands life, I'll be happy too. But I prefer someone traditional.
The ideal man? That's not easy. If he helps me every day at home and gives me everything I want, that would be pretty ideal.
But the real aim of the Moso's amorous maneuvers is to find the love of your life, the soulmate you can love in the daytime as well as at night. At the foot of the sacred mountain lives one of the last Moso priests, called a Daba. Dabas are shamans, guardians of an old tradition full of ancient rituals. These shamans can enter the spirit realm and see the path which the souls of the departed must follow. In the next village, one of Jema's friends, the head of a family, has died. The family has kept the body for 20 days and then called upon the Daba to conduct the funeral rites. The women of the family weep for their departed mother as they walk to the room where the body is kept. As the family grieves, the Daba calls to the spirit of the departed and to the winged horse which will carry her to the spirit realm. With his shamanic powers, the Daba shows them the path they must take and the dangers that await them on the way. At dawn on the 21st day, the body will be burned. Though the Moso were converted to Buddhism centuries ago by their Tibetan neighbors, they have not abandoned their traditional beliefs. They've added a form of Tibetan Lamaism to their ancient religion. The two religions don't send their dead to the same place. But for this funeral rite, the Buddhist lamas accept the Moso beliefs and pray that the soul of the departed will meet its ancestors on the sacred mountain. This mystic place is the home of Komu, goddess of the Moso. She has the power to cure ills and to bring good luck and riches to those who pray to her. After a long and arduous trek beneath the cliffs, Jema reaches the entrance to the cave used for prayers and offering.
We burn oil in these bowls. We often come to this cave to burn oil and incense sticks. We pray to the goddess to protect us. People have left these woolen threads as offerings to the female spirit. The goddess Kemu is the spirit of the cave. She's a young woman. Like all young women, she likes to knit. These braids are for her. If we have no daughters, we come here to sing a prayer, and the goddess grants our wish.
Komu is a rather unusual goddess. Apart from knitting, she goes to Lhasa every year to gamble for the good fortune of the Moso. If she wins, the harvest will be good. Erche earns $3 taking tourists out on the lake in his canoe, enough to feed Jema's family for several days. And to make sure everyone gets a share of these easy earnings, the village chief, chosen for his fairness, has given every family a day to take tourists out onto the lake. Now that Chinese workers have paid holidays, tourism is taking off. Chinese tourists flock to Lake Liku, fascinated by the Moso way of life. Wealthy visitors from Canton and Beijing cross China to spend a few days beside the lake. Ten kilometers from Liku is Lo Shui, the region's tourist center. Souvenir shops and brand new hotels attract more and more visitors. The lakeside villages do what they can to catch up. Families in Liku install guest rooms in their houses in the hope of attracting holidaymakers. Tourism has transformed the economy, replacing older sources of income. Traditional crops are now used to feed livestock. With electricity, television has come to Liku. Satellite dishes have changed the look of the village and let in the outside world. If they are to safeguard their traditions, the Moso will have to resist a number of outside influences, tourism and television, and education too. Since the Moso language has no written form, only Chinese is taught in this primary school, which suits the Chinese authorities. With the Chinese language, Moso children absorb Chinese ideas, like the model of the traditional two-parent family. The Chinese have been trying for decades to bring these people into line, to make them abandon their immoral traditions. During the Cultural Revolution, they even imposed marriage. It was a complete failure. The idea of a mother-in-law, or a daughter-in-law, is completely foreign to Moso culture. The government gave in, but still makes fathers declare their paternity and contribute to the costs of their children's education. Will the Moso lose their identity after resisting change for so many centuries?
We Moso will never change. Nothing the tourists bring will change us. We'll be just the same as we always were. I hope my son will understand that. Our children listen to their mothers. If I tell him, he'll listen to me, and he won't change.
Jema seems very sure of herself. But will she have so much influence on her son after he's received a Chinese education? Can she accept the material wealth tourism will bring without losing the best of Moso life? And certainly Liku will look different. Now there are plans for a cable car to take people to the top of the sacred mountain. There will be new hotels and souvenir shops, just like in Lo Shui. Whatever the future holds for the Moso, it's clear that these people enjoy their lives, living in harmony, ruled by the wisdom of their laws. The Moso give us a glimpse of another way of living and loving. Jema is sure that she lives in the best of all possible worlds, here on the shores of Lake Lugu.
My